teacher, so I'll use my yard duty voice. I work at in a new school that's in a very disadvantaged area. And one thing, when Peter was asking about what we talk about innovation and the digital technologies, is that one of the things we think it's really important about, and I'd like some people to comment or at least consider, is that for the first time the students in those schools are what we call getting a level playing field with those students that have come from more upper class, middle class backgrounds. So we think that's important. In saying that, in a school of 1,100 kids with everyone having their own digital device, the thing that they've raved most about in the last week, and this is for you, Adrian, is a project we did called the 10 Big Questions in Science. And that was the thing that they have been really, really passionate about. After listening to the conversations, Adrian, by them doing the Big 10 Questions in Science, which I hope you've heard about, would there be a fear in the science community that they become more generalists and not specialists, or do you see that as a good grounding for them to proceed?
I think it's a wonderful grounding. As long as they can be excited and they can start to think like a scientist, they can think analytically and they can look at data. So rather than when the big questions of society come up, do not let them fall back on belief systems. Get them to think about data and get them to think analytically and critically. And I think it doesn't matter they're generalists. They're thinking, and they will become much better citizens if they can look at the big questions and contribute to our society with that analytical focus on science. You're doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, and you've been modest. I mean, this is Mark Oliphant College. Only if you haven't been there, you should go. I spent a day there, had the most brilliant time. Went back the next day. I'd shown them what other schools are doing around the world. Went back the next day. Kids were already writing on all the white surfaces. They had their shoes off. They were debating the impact of coloured light. You know, people say schools can't move quickly. Jeeps, in 12 hours, you know, they were doing new things, and I learned heaps from them as well. You should go and visit the place. Yeah.
I'm going to round this up now with 3 reminders to each of you that I've learned from my recent conversations with you. Brendan, first, just a comment very quickly on the fact that you think that inside the house, inside the school, is so much more interesting than outside the school or outside
it's an
the
insight.
building.
It's an insight we've seen is kids when my age couldn't wait when we were younger to get outside. I mean, once dinner was over, get outside. Now today's environment with your laptop, your video games, your TVs, and then the parents' fear factor of strangers. You just want to hang inside. So I'd love ideas on, and we're working on this, how to get kids outside.
Thank you.
And my favourite outside thing. So I'm a granddad.
Sailing.
No. I was going to say cycling. Actually, I'm a granddad too. I've got a granddaughter, and most of you would have learnt to ride a bicycle at about 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 would be cautious, 5 would be precocious. You're in that kind of range. If you're parents with young children now, you know all about balance bikes. If you take a small child, 1.5 will be enough. Put them on a bike with no pedals, and it turns out they can balance it already. They scoot along, they lift their feet up, and they balance 2-wheel bike. You give them 6 months, put them on a bike with pedals, and they cycle off down the street. It turned out that putting stabilisers on the bike was holding them back. It turned out that only allowing them to go as fast as their parent could run alongside holding the saddle was holding them back. When we let them go, they astonish us with what they can do. And if you can't grasp that metaphor, you've been in the wrong place all morning, I think.
I've got another question for you, but I'm going to go straight to Adrian right at the moment. Adrian, you've just come back from India and you're in Rajasthan. You went to a school there.
I did.
What did you learn while you were in that school?
Well, I was astonished. This was a school in northern Rajasthan, up near the Pakistani border. Very, very poor village, with everything you've read about. People living really in hovels, a village pub for the water and the washing, single furrow ploughs. The school, all the children were in uniforms. They didn't wear shoes, they didn't have shoes, but they all had a uniform. They were all getting a hot meal in the middle of the day. And I went into the classroom of the year 7s, and very polite, and they showed me with great pride their workbooks and their mathematics. It was astonishing. They were doing pure mathematics. They were doing advanced algebra and advanced geometry and preliminary calculus in things I'm sure our kids wouldn't be up to. And I was amazed. And they were so proud of what they'd been doing.
And why?
And why? Well, because India has, I presume, India has had a long tradition in astronomy, mathematics, physics. You know, they've had Nobel laureates in physics. So they've had this very long tradition in this area, and mathematics and education is very important to them. So maths is important, but they all know and respect education as the way out of poverty. So they are totally focused, wherever I went, they're totally focused on any educational opportunity. The parents would do anything, you know, scrape together money. All the girls, interesting, the girls got free government education. The boys, for educating a boy, you had to pay a small amount. And they had for the women, in the classroom, they had 5 things for the women. Girls must go to school. You must not marry your daughters before 18. Have 2 children only. Go to the hospital to give birth and be economically independent. So these were the 5 things on a big chart. And I thought, well, it's going to take a while, but they've got some really good ideas. But the focus on education as the way out of poverty was absolutely, wherever I went in Rajasthan anyway, it was amazing.
And surely if they can do it in North Rajasthan, they can do it in North Coburg.
I would, well, if the parents and everyone had the idea that this was the way out of poverty, then it would probably happen because the opportunity's there.
It's about messaging and role modelling too. And Stephen, to continue and to wrap up this, I'd like you to report on a crime I heard that you mentioned in England recently, and that is where some radical students actually broke into a school. Now, why would they do that?
Because
What hope for us is there?
they designed the school themselves. It was a classroom of tomorrow. They built this extraordinary place in West London, Lambton School, an outstanding school in pretty difficult circumstances. Gang culture on the pavements outside, gang rape, a current problem. And they'd redesigned their class space with no technology, by the way. They'd said, don't buy us any technology. We'd sooner use the stuff we've got in our pockets, because if you buy us technology in 3 years' time, it'll be out of date. If the stuff in our pockets works, it'll be up to date in 3 years' time. You know. And they were so taken with the classroom they'd designed that this Easter they broke into their staff room to get the keys, to break into the school, to carry on going to school every day through the Easter holiday. They did not want to lose it. And
There is hope.
nothing more surprising. If you come to the keynote tomorrow, I'll show you pictures of the classroom. It was just a very traditional, transportable, portable hut. But what they created inside was a little magic place for learning that they did not want to leave. So it's all to play for. Didn't cost a lot of money. It's achievable. And just be serious for a moment here, because the world's a bit broken. I do believe we can mend poverty with learning. I've seen kids inoculated against poverty all over the world with great learning, in many places. And children who learn together pretty much don't complete the experience wanting to kill each other. It's that simple. And I absolutely believe we can mend the world with learning, but we're not going to do it with the old factory model of learning, which I think has been responsible for some of the tensions. But we can do it with a new, seductive, rather engaging, bottom-up, collaborative, shared, tech-rich model of learning that's out there. So this is all to play for here, really. It's not just improving schools here. It's actually saving the world. It's not a bad offer, is it, really?
And on that note, thank you so much. Stephen Heppell, Brendan Doyle and Adrienne Clark. A wonderful session.